Here are the 15 Hollywood stars who literally can't stand Meghan Markle at all. There is something almost irresistible about the spectacle of fame, the way public lives are mined for drama and packaged into narratives that will either elevate someone to untouchable status or tear them down with a ferocity that feels both personal and performative. Meghan Markle stepped into that glare, and the response was never going to be uniform. From admiration to skepticism to outright hostility, she has provoked reactions that read like a catalog of what it means to be a modern public figure who refuses to fit neatly into the roles the world expects. The chorus of critics is broad and loud, and their attacks come from very different places, the kind of diversity that makes the backlash itself part of the story. Some of the barbs were casual, tossed off in a late-night monologue, and some were surgical, deployed in columns and TV rants that aim to eviscerate. What follows is a portrait not just of one person under scrutiny, but of a culture that delights in dividing people into camps, picking sides and recycling outrage until the next scandal arrives. When a former president decides to weigh in, you know a story has seeped into the mainstream. In 2020, one high-profile voice made his feelings crystal clear. He claimed he was not a fan and famously quipped that Harry would need luck living the life he had chosen under Meghan's influence. The language used was easy to digest because it boiled a complicated marriage into a headline-ready roast. His criticism was theatrical rather than subtle, a blend of mockery and prediction, suggesting that Meghan would be the dominant partner and insinuating that the spotlight would eventually move on from Harry. That kind of commentary was less about policy and more about persona, a reminder that powerful figures often use celebrity feuds to score cultural points and keep their relevance in the conversation. Piers Morgan occupies a strange space in this timeline, someone who once seemed friendly toward Meghan, but then turned into a relentless critic. The relationship, or at least the perception of one, flipped the moment Meghan and Harry made choices that put them at odds with traditional royal expectations. Morgan, who had previously exchanged pleasantries and drinks with Meghan, says he felt ghosted after she became involved with Harry. From that point, his commentary hardened into a litany of accusations, painting Meghan as a social climber using royal status for personal gain. He did not stop at opinion pieces. His outrage grew into a crusade that even cost him his platform. The fuel for his fury was many things, but central was his belief that she had weaponized victimhood, dragging the monarchy through the mud for attention while enjoying a life of luxury in California. Piers's take is a textbook example of how a public falling out can morph into a professional vendetta that draws massive attention and rattles the people involved. The late-night and daytime TV circuits offered their own verdicts, and few hosts held back. One daytime queen, known for speaking her mind without buffering, minced no words when discussing Meghan's willingness to present herself as a perpetual victim. She suggested that Meghan, having entered the royal circus knowingly, could not now be surprised by the pressures and expectations that come with that role. Her closing line, an icy, "Nobody feels sorry for you, girl," crystallized a sentiment that would spread across social feeds. That comment was both a dismissal and a cultural marker, the kind of zinger that becomes meme currency and is repeated in takes that are more about performance than analysis. Reality TV personalities and social media stars stepped into the debate too, with some of the most viral reactions coming from women who built careers on public judgment. One reality icon asked, in the blunt language of TikTok soundbites, how Meghan could manage to get so many things wrong. She characterized Meghan as delusional and self-absorbed, urging her to disappear for a while and reflect on the consequences of her choices. The critique focused not just on isolated mistakes, but on a pattern. The idea that Meghan had everything at her fingertips and yet steadily eroded goodwill through decisions that seemed to stem from a warped sense of self-importance. That kind of critique thrives on comparisons, painting Meghan as someone who should have known better because she had so much to lose. Then there were the voices from the rock and soapbox worlds, people who bring a different kind of bluntness to public debate. A well-known music matriarch dismissed Meghan's Netflix projects as distasteful and full of complaining. On a widely watched podcast, she described Meghan as having found a louder megaphone rather than being silenced. The point she seemed to be making was about agency and consequence. If you choose to use platforms like Netflix to air grievances, you are participating in the publicity cycle rather than being outside of it. That observation tapped into a broader frustration among critics who see a disconnect between claims of being harmed and the decision to monetize that harm for large audiences. Some criticism took a darker turn in the pages of tabloids and opinion columns, where hyperbole and shock value sell papers. One prominent columnist produced a piece that ventured into grotesque territory, imagining public humiliation in a way that even many of his peers found corrosive. He later apologized, but not before the sensational language had been picked up and circulated, dragging Meghan into a vortex of dehumanizing imagery. That incident showed how quickly commentary can veer into moral territory where apology becomes a necessary damage control step once the public reaction makes clear the lines that were crossed. Highbrow media figures and respected journalists were not immune to joining the chorus. A seasoned editor and commentator minced words in a way that cut to the heart of the criticism. She saw Meghan and Harry's exit from royal duties as a catastrophic public relations failure, an upheaval that reverberated not only within the palace but across global media landscapes. Her critique was aimed at strategy and judgment, suggesting that Meghan's influence led to a series of missteps based on poor guidance. The tone was less about personal meanness and more about an assessment of competence, arguing that decisions made by the couple indicated an alarming pattern of ignoring sound counsel. That type of analysis resonated with readers who appreciated a measured, if scathing, evaluation from someone steeped in media practice. Satirists and comedians took hits a different way by turning Meghan's public statements into punchlines. One comedian's Netflix special famously roasted her for expressing surprise at the existence of racism within royal institutions, with the comic asking why someone in her position would not have researched or anticipated such issues. The joke landed with wide laughs and equally wide criticism because it condensed a nuanced life narrative into a single incredulous gag. That performance showcased the power of comedy to shape public perception, reducing complicated personal experiences into digestible and often unfair sound bites. Cultural critics on radio and podcasts offered their own scathing takes. One outspoken host described the couple as whiny for seeking privacy while simultaneously showcasing their lives on streaming platforms. He compared their brand to a toned-down, less glamorous version of the reality television phenomenon, arguing that their monetization deals undercut any claim to privacy. The ridicule was harsh but strategic. It accused them of hypocrisy and suggested that their public grievances were inconsistent with the realities of celebrity and media profit. Rock stars and musicians weighed in as well, using their stage for sharp political commentary. One notable rocker said Harry came across as a typical woke type, someone he felt had been softened by association with American culture. The tone here was less about Meghan personally and more about cultural collision, the friction that arises when different national values and expectations meet within a storied institution like the British monarchy. That comment read as both a cultural critique and a jab that played into broader narratives about American influence on British traditions. In the end, Meghan Markle's experience in the public eye is a case study in modern fame. It shows how personal narrative becomes public property, how private pain is sometimes turned into commerce, and how media ecosystems reward sharp, often cruel, analysis. The list of high-profile critics is long because the stakes felt large to many people. It was not just one celebrity who had grievances. It was talk show hosts, journalists, politicians, comedians, rock stars, and former allies, each bringing a different register of critique. Their voices combine to create a chorus that is at times vicious, at times insightful, and often performative.